Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Intelligent Idea Talkers podcast for the week of Sunday, April 22nd, 2018, episode 35. I'm your host, D.
This is your boy, Juice.
And we got a special guest. Not really so special, because she's here at every cast. She's here at every single cast, so it's not really like a guest. And plus, we're using her table right now. Ladies and gentlemen,
CEO of Nsundu Craft,
Claudine.
Hi.
Welcome. Thanks for sharing the microphone with us.
You know what I'm saying? Thanks
Been too long.
Sharing the table.
Juice has said multiple times that he's giving you multiple invitations to come on with us, but
Sure.
I mean, you have a fourth seat at your table there, so
y'all know Claudine because she's popped in a number of times, just in alternative casts we've had, just random casts we've had. She
very
just popped in
informative points.
Actually, that shit is wrong and this shit is wrong because of these reasons.
Good ideas, good opinions, man.
Yeah,
definitely come drop it with us. Well, thanks guys for joining us, episode 35. Trying to keep it going. Shout outs to Jay. Come on back, Jay. Being missed, man.
He's actually at Bachu's Auto right now in Chicago. You know what I'm saying? Good luck, fellas. Jay and Danny and Ganga Zumba. Yo, shout out.
Even though
y'all.
we're doing a cast this weekend, which is definitely a good thing. Why didn't you go, D?
Well, it's not my group and it's in Chicago, so it's
kind
of a long trip.
I see. Okay, Chicago is a long way.
It's a long ways, you know what I'm saying?
2 tickets are expensive.
I would have loved to go, man, but it just wasn't a prep time for me, man. And I do miss traveling for Capoeira, though. I do miss traveling.
Going to Chicago? You ever been to Chicago?
Nah, I haven't.
Me neither. I heard it's a beautiful city, though.
Yeah.
I heard it really is nice, though.
I saw a recent article pretty bad about Chicago. Talking about
we're talking about like the suburbs and all that stuff. Like, not the suburbs, but like the ghetto. If you go to Chicago on vacation, you're not going to the ghetto. You're going to the nice part of Chicago. You're not gonna get shot. You can't get shot in like the middle of town square in Chicago or whatever. You know I don't know any spots in Chicago.
Shout out to Justice in Chicago.
Yeah.
What up, girl? Shout out. I think she's in the good part of Chicago. But yeah, the article I was seeing on Chicago, I forgot what the site was, but they were talking about how like 70% of the water. 70% of the water in Chicago, and it just said Chicago is contaminated with lead.
I did. Yeah, you know what? You sent that to the group.
Yeah.
Okay, I read that.
I never get to go through it, but it was pretty fascinating. It was pretty kind of
I've been hearing stories about this, especially from someone like Alex Jones, who's been saying that they've been spiking water, with was it fluoride, lead, that they've tried to like put different chemicals into public water to
the ones that turns the frogs gay, right?
Well, okay, it might not turn
that
the frogs
one, right?
gay. But you have to admit that maybe if you add stuff to the water,
turns the frogs gay.
Over time, with these animals ingesting and using that water, it would have some kind of chemical change to their body, some kind of biological change.
Some strange biological.
They could turn asexual. Change. They could turn asexual, right? And impregnate themselves. Maybe it's possible. I don't know. Isn't that asexual?
I don't know.
It is. Asexual is when you don't have a partner.
Asexual is you're not at all interested in sex. It's like anti-sexual.
No, there are frogs that are asexual. Asexual is when you do not need a male. You're male and female.
That's hermaphrodite.
Internally. Well, you have the ability to impregnate yourself. You can get pregnant by yourself. It's crazy. But, yeah, thank God women can't do that because men be in trouble if women can do that. Yeah,
You'll be useless.
Men Steph has her own theory on that one. Steph is like, we don't need y'all.
Steph is like, all I need is a turkey baster and that's a low blow. I'm sorry, Steph. Come back on the cast. Okay, so we're just going to jump on with Kendrick Lamar.
We about to start this shit over.
And you can just edit that out, right?
Oh shit! Sorry.
No, Steph is gonna get so mad if
she's gonna be in the next cast.
If Steph ever hears that, she's gonna get so mad. I know Steph. Like Steph has a sense of humor, but you can cross the line with her real quick.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all love.
We're gonna jump on with something that happened in the news. Was this last week or the week before? What's the title? What's the date of this article? April 18th.
April 18th.
Yep. So last week. Kendrick Lamar has won a Pulitzer Prize. Wow. For his album Damn. Which I will say, just as a side remark, Damn is not my favorite Kendrick album. I still like Section 80 the best.
Section 80 the best?
I think so because it was my first introduction to Kendrick, and it was just such a grounded album. Like, it was just grounded in hip hop. It wasn't like there was nothing commercial on there. There was no, I mean, he like
better than Good Kid, Mad City.
Good Kid, Mad City was dope.
It was dope.
I still got
Section 80 is
now.
dope. I mean, don't get me wrong. That joint is amazing, especially for somebody that's pre-signed. Or he was kind of signed. He was with, I think, Top Dog then. But
if you're going to say that, then, like, if you're not going to pick a favorite, you had to put all those albums on the same level then, because Section 80 was just as good as Good Kid, Mad City, or as good as...
The Pimp a Butterfly was actually my favorite album.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. I liked it.
It was good. That shit was amazing.
Okay, so Kendrick won a Pulitzer Prize for the album Damn.
We gonna be all right.
Should we tell them what the album what the Pulitzer Prize is actually?
Oh yeah, so bring that up. So in case you guys aren't aware, and in case you're not as well read as we are and cultured as we are, we're gonna read you the definition which we found on Wikipedia.
I ain't gonna lie. Before I did this, I didn't know what a Pulitzer Prize was, and it's weird because I've been hearing the words Pulitzer Prize my whole life.
Yeah, right.
And I never cared what it was. Like, I probably cared before, but it just didn't dawn on me to look it up.
I was like, is that what they give out in golf?
Right. Like a Pulitzer?
The putzer?
Like but I've heard it thousands of times, though. So, the Pulitzer Prize is an award for achievements in newspaper, magazine, online journalism, literature, and musical composition in the United States. Bam. That's the definition of a Pulitzer Prize. I could read on further, but... we get it. It's a very prestigious prize given out to people who have achieved things in newspaper, magazine, basically anything has to do with media or literature, musical composition. So that usually entails jazz or classical music, right? So this is significant because it's the first time they've given it to a hip hop artist for his work, and which begs a fundamental question: is hip hop art? Is it musical art? Because we consider classical music art, right? Jazz, which the Pulitzer Prize is known to giving out, to those artists of jazz or classical music. But is hip hop music art?
Hell to the yeah.
Can you consider,
in my opinion,
is Project Pat, is 3-6 art?
Of course.
Is Project Pat like is
Mr.
Mafia? Don't Play? Is that art?
Project Pat? Yeah, that shit is art. You
right?
listen to Project Pat?
Because all that's under the same umbrella of hip hop, right? And then you have different classes inside that. Southern, New York, West Coast. Yeah. They're doing hard, but...
Dude, like, yo,
yeah,
3-6 Mafia definitely art.
You know what I'm saying? I don't know if it was art, though, man. Like, I mean... how many niggas and bitches can you have in one? Yeah. I don't know. When you go back and listen to some of that music nowadays, that
it's
so
violent
ignorant.
or shit. But art can be violent. Art can be beautiful. Art can be dramatic. It can be all kinds of things.
True.
And if we're talking about music, music is something that's influenced the human mind since our unique ability to create it. Right. So yeah, it's definitely art. It's a unique product of the human condition. So yes, this is something we do. This is something we distribute to everybody around the world. And hip hop definitely is art because it is loved by countries around the world. Mm-hmm. People rap in Wu-Tang who don't speak English. Like if you have, that's an influence right there.
Right.
And it's not only social, but it's political to a degree. Mm-hmm. There's so many things. So yeah, definitely hip hop.
It definitely is influential
art.
Worldwide.
And yeah,
like if you think art as a human expression of what's happening both in their life and the society around them, then everything can be considered as art. It just depends on how the society wants to classify it. Mm-hmm. Like I grew up listening to English and I couldn't speak a word, but that's how I kind of started learning a little bit of English and kind of got into
She knew
music.
all of R. Kelly's In the Closet tunes.
That In the Closet series was tight.
Like I knew Michael Jackson's
She didn't know English, but she knew all those.
Like
right.
She doing
really?
Mr. Biggs.
That In the Closet series was tight though. That was tight.
But that's how a lot of us actually kind of learn a little bit of English about America is by listening to hip hop and stuff like that. So it should be, if people don't want to consider that as art, then it's their losses, but it should be considered as art.
And people always try to categorize stuff as what's not as high art, and I feel like that's what the Pulitzer Prize has kind of been about. Like, we've always had awards for music, right? From awards in your high school, right, for music, or to the MTV Awards. God damn it, yeah, MTV Awards for music. So there's always been awards for music. So it's always something that people have aspired to do. The Pulitzer Prize is one of those high art, Cambridge. Wine and pipes kind of thing.
I don't know about that. I think for me, why they didn't want to consider hip hop as actual composition of music is because they were thinking that too, but they were also considering the complexity that comes with actually creating a classical music. The complexity that comes with creating a piece of music that's not necessarily mainstream, and though like a lot of hip-hop people, a lot of just artists just sing whatever they want to sing that has no real meanings behind it. It's just all like, I don't know, bling bling girls and stuff like that.
That's where the error comes in. Because if we know hip-hop, if you know hip-hop, if you've been growing up listening to hip-hop from Tribe Quest and before, and Tribe Quest and beyond. Common Sense, like, these aren't just pop songs, right?
Yeah,
and
but
I feel like
black people are not the one giving those awards to people. That's the thing, is white people. So white people didn't grow up listening. Most of white people didn't grow up listening to Wu-Tang and all those people. They grew up listening to whatever they had in their own circles. Now hip hop is becoming more and more mainstream. Kendrick Lamar is becoming more and more accepted because right now he's actually talking about reality. Everybody is actually seeing. It might not be white people reality, but everybody's seeing it. Beyonce's talking about it. So now they're actually slowly understanding that, the white experience is not everybody experience. So they might need to recognize other people. And the black experience.
Okay. And music is one of those things that transcends language and even like cultural barriers, because it's sounds, it's a frequency, it's like a vibration. So regardless of what language it's in, you nod or you move to the beat. It's it's one of those things you can just feel internally. And we were talking about Juice brought up Cambridge earlier. So the board for the Pulitzer Prize, before we actually talk about Kendrick, there's a 19-member Pulitzer Prize board where they convene at the Joseph Pulitzer World Room at Columbia University. And actually, as Claudine said earlier, the award is actually given out by Columbia University. So basically everybody on the board is from Columbia University. It comprises major editors, columnists, and media executives, in addition to 6 members drawn from academia and the arts, including the president of Columbia University, the dean of Columbia University Graduate School of Journalism, and the administrator of prizes, who serves as the board secretary. So it's given out by Columbia University, basically rich white people.
And I think that's kind of the most important commentary on this, because, as I was saying before, hip-hop has always been very, very complex. Like, people like to minimize just loud drums and people rapping offensive things over it, but it's honestly never just been that. And whether or not that's what's been on the radio is a selection, again, by the whites in power. I mean, not to pick on white folk, but by the establishment, let's say. Like, it's always been a selection of the establishment, and whether or not they selected to put on the Talib Kweli track from Quality or Reflection Eternal versus a 3-6 Mafia track with Project Pat. What you talking? What you doing over there? You know what I'm saying? Chicken heads, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's always been a selection between those two things, and whether or not what they decide to play.
Is Chicken Heads art?
Chicken Heads is art.
It was artful, yes.
But if we're talking, it's definitely
it was.
Yeah. What you doing
over
there?
My real question is how today's situation is actually impacting the way they are doing things. Like, I'm like, in the 90s, you had a lot of like conscious rap and things like that, but in the 90s they had other things to kind of deal with what was happening, like both politically and things like that. So they didn't really want to consider the black experience as something that's as relevant because they had other things to deal with it. Now you're having Trump, you're having all those like Islamophobia and all those racism that's happening, and now a lot of them are kind of pushing back against the conservative / pro-Trump narrative and saying, hey, now we actually have to become allies to all those black people, to all those minorities, because we have the responsibility to do it. So how is knowing that kind of influence their judgment between choosing
That's the question,
between
right?
choosing two white people who were mostly into classical music and choosing a black person who was saying, hey,
In their eyes,
you guys are kind of fucked up if you don't help, because this is our reality.
in
This
their
is the
eyes,
reality
that
of
would be
everybody.
kind of reaching down or reaching outside of their
That'll be
normal
being-
pool of material they would select for something like this.
They'll be
And the
being
question,
complicit.
right? And the question, not to speak against Kendrick's award, because like honestly, I'll take it. Sometimes it comes down to whether or not people do the right thing. Sometimes you just have to get them to do the right thing, regardless of their reasons, right? So I personally, as a hip hop fan, appreciate the Pulitzer committee opening up to this. But it brings up the question of why would such a quote unquote prestigious community or whatever, a panel such as this, say that they need to select somebody like they had, as you just mentioned, they had selected between two American classical music creators or producers or however you composers, right? Versus Kendrick Lamar's Damn album. So yeah, two of those and one in Kendrick, and as I mentioned earlier, I was like, what is that dynamic where they were listening to two classical albums and all of a sudden they put on Damn and the complete vibe change. You go from stringed instruments to I got royalty inside my DNA, right? You know what I'm saying? It's like, what is that? What is that transition like? And then how did they move from that position to be like, oh, well, I mean, that classical stuff is beautiful, but
Like,
I need royalty in my DNA,
no,
right?
if
Like,
it's-
what kind of move is that? And
If you want to step back, it's like, how did he actually get to the top 3? Because they had
Right.
over 100 different
Another one,
nominations.
right.
So how did he get up to the top 3? And then what made them choose him then?
I mean, I hate to
Over
say
Ed
it,
Sheeran.
but
And,
most likely,
and knowing that Dame is not the best album he has.
most likely it's a pity pick just for the culture. And I think the thing is, with hip hop being as influential as it is worldwide, they have no choice but to get on board with hip hop because it's kind of the movement of the youth, and they can't stop their sons and daughters from listening to it. They can't stop their sons and daughters from being influenced by it. So it could just be an acceptance thing where maybe they want the kind of establishment that they're a part of to be seen as on the side of
the forward push.
Yes, the new movement.
I have a quote
Maybe
here.
they didn't think that hip hop would be around as long as it was, right? Speaking back to like the early days of like the 90s, maybe they didn't think hip hop would be as influential. I mean, when you have kids who don't even speak English listening to, like you said, Wu-Tang or Jay-Z or Beyonce or, it's just there's a power behind music that is beyond, language and culture, and
So
it's one of those things you can understand regardless of where you're from.
There's a quote here from David Haju, who was one of the board who selected the winner of the Pulitzer Prize this year. And David Haju, he had a quote. He said he supported Damn because of his, quote, ingenuity and beauty, though he admitted its modernity also felt germane to the discussion. And that's a powerful point to make. It's like, so it's because of its modernity, right? Because, like you just pointed out, right? Like, it's actually is relevant. It's relevant to our times. It's relevant to the day. And probably more so the lyrics. And I would argue that music with lyrics, especially, I always call it hip hop or conscious rap, right? But conscious rap lyrics, when you're dealing with the political scene, they make the most poignant, most detailed, powerful points in their songs, in their verses.
In your face points.
Right, the in your face points that says it in both a unfiltered but poetic way to a beat. And if we're dealing in a society in which we are dealing with Trump right now, and we're dealing with the Republican Party and the situation of immigration and how they're trying to peel back like means of survival for people of lower classes, like, you need those hardcore in your face lyrics sometimes, those words that point out the hypocrisy. And sometimes a classical orchestra of strings and the brass section isn't going to do it.
No, but I think hip hop benefits from sampling some of those classical elements into their songs.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm not sure what article you're looking at, but it's weird because when you mentioned David Haju, I was just looking at his name on this train. But he says that has brought in elements of jazz. Kendrick Lamar has brought in elements of jazz into all of his albums, including To Pimp a Butterfly in 2015, and Damn. And maybe that's some of the things they listen for, those classical cues, those jazzical cues. Maybe they're listening beyond the lyrics. Do you think hip hop benefits from having lyrics? Right? Because
I definitely do.
The composition of the music itself can be just as complex as classical or jazz, right? But it also has the lyrical element to it. So when a rapper is quote unquote spitting a song, you can kind of feel them not only on the musical cues but also on the lyrical ones.
I definitely think lyrics matter because
like that Jay-Z song I just put on, man, that Family Feud. Yeah, I'm gonna send you the link. I swear to God, listen to that joint, man. This dude makes so much sense in that song. That joint really is like a poem. I mean,
like when you look at
Jay-Z
stories
might be
told
one of the best
by
rappers ever.
You look at stories told by like hip hop artists, like Nas, one of the best storytellers, or you name
Ghostface
it. Right?
is still one of the best storytellers.
Ghostface, right? One of the best storytellers. Like here's the thing, like
is the only dude I know who will pistol whip you out in the song.
Tell stories in that way is something that I don't know, man. I hate to like downplay classical music. But classical music does tell stories, but it's entirely subjective, right? It's entirely how you feel about the music at the time. If you're not viewing anything, if you're not following any particular, you're going on the feelings that the music, that orchestra puts into you through that sound. But hip hop lyrics, if they're telling a story of how of somebody who got caught up in a robbery and went to jail and had to get out in 10 days, right? Like, that's a story that you're an observer, and everybody's looking at the same story you are. Right?
I dropped my gun, my pants falling off my ass and shit. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, one of them Ghostface. He said, I'm tripping trying to carry my pants. Yeah. Like,
you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, shit. I wouldn't want to be in that situation.
Yeah, like you can relate to something like that. Damn, I ran and my pants was falling down one day too. So,
are we overthinking this? Because I'm like, if the primary idea was for them to reach out to diversity and be inclusive, which is one of the critics a lot of liberal white media and establishment are getting, then taking a minority will have give them the exposure they're getting now, will have actually led a lot of the younger people to actually discover what the Pulitzer Prize is and what that means.
Right.
And will have actually allowed them to be a little bit more relevant than
into the future.
So this is a benefit for them.
Most of you guys, you guys didn't know what the Pulitzer was.
Bruh.
Like, you actually just looked
it's weird
because
I've heard it my whole life.
Yeah, but you never really cared until Kendrick Lamar won it, right?
Yeah, I'm like, I can relate
so
to
now they're actually reaching out to a younger population, knowing that the younger population now are the one actually more relevant than any other one. Like now, journalism is slowly becoming
digital.
Yeah, digital. Everybody is like on internet, and everybody's kind of becoming their own journalist, and that's where the news is, and that's where everything is right now. But most of the best pictures that are taken, which is one of the best pictures. Like are taken by people with their cell phones and stuff. Like you don't need to be a world journalist anymore to actually take one of the best pictures, right? So now by reaching out to minorities, by being more inclusive, they're actually making them more relevant in today's society. What if that was the end goal?
That's and true. Not so it was just a pity pick.
Not necessarily Kendrick Lamar. More like a marketing thing.
That's what I'm
marketing.
Like a marketing
maybe not
tool.
Pity pick, but maybe a strategic marketing move, right?
Which is
like
a pity pick. Because they
not
didn't
necessarily.
If they didn't like your music the best, they picked you because of a reason that's outside of the criteria of the music.
Is it pity though? I wouldn't say that.
What if the other ones were not as good and he was the actual
out of 100?
best?
They said they had over 180 pieces of music that they looked at.
How many albums are released a year? Like
thousands, right?
Thousands.
Yeah.
So 100 out of thousands is almost nothing.
Yeah,
so
I just can't believe that.
What if that was the only one?
Because Damn is not, like you said, Damn is not even his best album.
It's
To
not.
me,
But it's his most modern album.
Yeah,
His most recent
but
album.
like
Right.
even, like we were listening to that was on the Dame album, right? We listened to one song when they were actually the intro was a clip from the
Fox
news,
News.
from the news, and then they were using some of the things that's been happening like last year, right? So he used what's happening
And then he critiques
everywhere
it.
and how we are witnessing that into his songs. The other two were not doing that. The other two were just writing classical music. So whatever, like he's telling a story they all observed.
so there's a valid question then. Are there other hip hop albums that are worthy of Pulitzer Prize wins?
Absolutely.
maybe, but they were not nominated.
Not this year.
So
but who
why
knows what
now
next year's
was
gonna
Kendrick
happen,
Lamar
right?
nominated?
Like, here's the thing.
Is it because of the political climate that's around us now, or is it because he genuinely made a good piece of music?
Because Obama loved him. That's
Maybe it's just because he became more mainstream than other ones. Now you're having a lot of youngster, teenage and white people listening to him. And if those are the ones that are influencing their parents who were part of the nomination, that's going to be part of the nominees.
Because I say that because if you put on a piece of classical music right now, like the three of us, I know for me, myself, I don't listen to classical music. So when I hear it and I'm trying to listen for the art in it or the cultural expression in that music, I mean, I can hear it. I can hear the music, but I can't hear the beauty in it, so to speak, because I'm not from that world. I don't listen to classical music, right? So it's like Dee said, with these people sitting in a room going from these classical songs to Kendrick Lamar, that would be a little jarring, right? Because I can't imagine that the dean of Columbia University listens to Kendrick Lamar.
Or
know?
his history.
Right. So it's
Or maybe
like,
they do as a study, right? Maybe they study the artist, they listen to everything he has upcoming until this point, and they
maybe Kendrick had a
critique that.
concert there and he went to the concert. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I imagine they do concerts at all these universities.
I definitely don't think it's at this point, like, after pointing out that this is definitely a good move for them as an institution,
It's a good marketing
I
move.
would argue that, that's a good marketing move, and it's not necessarily a pity pick. Because if they didn't do this and they did select one of those other two guys, who would we be talking about it? No. Some prestigious Cambridge
in
podcast
essence, their
will be talking about it.
In essence, their
on
marketing
campus.
idea is right.
It worked.
It worked. We're talking about it. It's relevant. And they got an article on hiphop.com and whatnot, you know.
Right? You know?
They got talked
Covered by
about
the
in
New
circles
Yorker.
they would never get
They
talked
probably
about.
talk about stuff in New York anyway.
Right.
But
But
like every single black person in the U.S. is aware of who they are.
Yeah, now-
at least they know at least the name.
we were impressed. We didn't even know what it was for, but we knew it was some shit white
I
people
know it was a
liked.
prestigious award.
And the black and Kendrick Lamar got it. So we were like, good job, Kendrick.
Word. Kendrick.
People hating though, but
He deserves it, man. Congratulations, Kendrick, man.
yeah, man, he does all the work, man.
He is. I mean, I remember the first time I listened to Section 80. Was that the first album I heard from TDE? I think it was. Because after that, I started getting all the Ab Soul's joints, all the Schoolboy Q's albums.
Yeah.
Like, when I first heard that Section 80, man, like, because it was at that
such
point
a
in, like,
poetic
hip-hop
album.
where, like,
It was
there was
unlike-
nothing really to listen to. It was all, like, trap music. And
Yeah, you're right.
When I first heard him, who was hot then? I think it was Waka Flocka. I think that Waka album came out because it was around 2010,
That shit was one we do.
right?
Yeah.
That joint was hard, but it was like everything was trap music and crunk.
didn't have-
But that's
yeah,
that's
there was
the
no
thing.
content to it.
That's
And
the thing.
Section
If you're
80
hungry.
just brought me back to hip hop, man. I was like, yo, this is like. And then I heard Ab Soul, and then I heard Schoolboy Q, and I was like, yo, hip hop is not dead, man. It's still there, man. Like, for me, that joint, it brought me back into it, man.
Right,
Brought me back into
That's
it.
the problem. You had a decade where actual conscious rap or conscious hip hop was underground. A lot of people didn't know about it. They were not really aware of it. And those who were, is because that was the circle they were going in. They were like
You had to go
running
into
to.
it under your own willpower. It wasn't handed to you like everything on the radio.
Yeah, so now you're having.
But that's how conscious rap has always been, man.
Yeah, but now you're having Kendrick Lamar, who's bringing conscious rap or conscious hip hop
Back to the front.
to actually the front, the main street media, and he's having those major like deals. And now people are like, okay, so we actually have to listen, and because we're having all those youngsters listening to it, we have to pay attention now
You know what's
because
interesting?
all the black people are getting killed.
Something I find interesting is the fact that
But don't.
something I find interesting.
It's like, yo, all black people.
But like, what about the fact that like a lot of, maybe not a lot, but at least Jay-Z is artists who have been notoriously known as the pop artist and the rap of the day, and just something we listen to because it pops up on the radio all the time. Those guys are becoming more conscious now.
Mm-hmm.
Like Jay-Z, his last album, as you pointed out, like he is talking what we would have considered in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he's talking some conscious shit.
Right.
Where before he was like
stuff. Yeah.
Boom, boom,
I'm gonna blast you, bring the drug deal and whatnot. Yeah,
right. You know what I'm saying? Like drug deals.
It goes back to our youth because we did listen to that type of music. I mean, Wu-Tang was full of that. I listen to Wu-Tang. I mean,
Wu-Tang was like yin yang though. It was two sides in one album.
That's why I love Wu-Tang. They had the conscious part, but they also had the
it was
street
gangsters
part
and
to
conscious.
Yeah,
gangster and
I
conscious.
mean,
It was gangsters.
Like GZA, listening to a GZA album. GZA wasn't talking about no gangster stuff. You know,
talking about the alignment of the stars,
right? You know,
he was talking about the momentum of the curvature of the earth.
Yeah, you know. So it's weird.
Is Jay-Z becoming conscious because of he wants to become relevant again,
Jay-Z,
or because he actually has something to say?
He does have something to say. That last album was
and it's because he's older now.
And also, Jay-Z received a huge social status boost from Beyonce.
Oh yeah,
his association with Beyonce.
It was a win-win situation. It was a win-win situation. Like she became part of.
I don't know.
She was
before.
Beyonce
is.
She was after The Rock though.
No,
like she came after The Rock. Like remember everybody else wanted diamonds in there?
Jay-Z is a household name now. That's because Beyonce.
But after the Destinies, like when she tried to do her own thing, Jay-Z helped her a lot.
I imagine so.
Yeah. And then when she got established, at that time, he kind of picked up on her and elevated himself too. So I think it's a win-win. I don't think she'll have been where she is now without his help at the beginning.
I don't know, man. Beyonce's style of music is like
changed.
Yeah, I mean, it transcends. That Sasha Fierce album. I'm sorry, that's probably one of the only truly R&B albums that I own. I mean, I got a lot of Erykah Badu, you know, some kind of chill, jazzical kind of R&B, but I have Sasha Fierce though. I'm not even afraid to admit
it. No, the last
that album was freaking crazy. Like
the last 3 albums are good, dude, but the one before,
I think it was like a 10 or 11 track album. She had like 6 singles off of that.
It was a 2 CDs.
Right, yeah, okay, yeah. I remember, dude, she had like 7 or 8 videos on TV from the same album. Like that. I mean, that girl was a huge name. Like not only with, you know, people in high school, but women in their 40s loved Beyonce, you know? And I think she definitely folded Jay-Z into that umbrella.
She allowed him, or she pushed him to grow, like as an actual man and not a boy anymore, I feel.
His last album was
I'm no Jay-Z like super fan or anything, but Jay-Z was doing pretty goddamn good for himself before she came around. Like, I recall, like,
but he wasn't a billionaire.
Yeah.
Well, he benefits from the association with her name. He's no longer seen as the drug dealing guy who started rapping, you know, like 50 Cent. Jay-Z was kind of in that 50 Cent mold where
they both
I sold crack for a living.
They're both going on a tour together. They're both going on a tour together right now. A lot of
different.
Jay-Z is seen as like a philanthropist and a.
True. You know. Like a lot of people who don't necessarily like Beyonce but like Jay-Z are gonna go because Jay-Z is gonna be there. And a lot of people who love Beyonce don't really care about Jay-Z are gonna go too. So it's gonna be a win-win situation for their family and for their names. Like
and for the black community.
He has more money than her. She has.
I don't know about that. We have to Google their net worth.
He still has more money than her because most of her money are in herself in performance and stuff like that.
You Google Beyonce,
and most of his money,
I'm gonna talk about
is everywhere, clothes everywhere.
I mean, he has liquor and all that, but I don't think his net worth is.
I think they still sell Rockaware in a Burlington Coat Factory. You know what I'm saying?
Yo, Rockaware, man, we used to tell you.
I used to Rockaware T-shirt and a hoodie back in the day, but also their influence on the black community, right?
The rapper's net worth last year, this is January 2018, according to Time.com, net worth amounted to $810 million.
Yep. Oh, who am I looking? Am I looking for Beyonce? I thought I was looking for Jay-Z.
Okay, let's do Beyonce. $810 million last year, so that was 2017. How the hell is
350?
Beyonce's net worth is $350 million.
Because he was able to diversify all his things. He has music. He has clothes.
Diversify your
he has philanthropists. he was able to do it way before most people were able to do it.
That's true.
Look, I don't like admitting when I'm wrong, okay? Stop proving me wrong on the Intelligent Idea Talkers podcast. Only
Yes.
D, you got
only Jews can prove me wrong. I guess fine. By proxy, you can prove me wrong too.
There you go.
You and Juice are one. You
There
and
you
Juice
go.
are one. Man.
What?
Yeah, I'm telling you. Okay, so fine. Jay-Z and Beyonce are worth more than $1 billion together. Right?
1.16 billion.
Fascinating. So
that's
whoever
crazy.
would have seen Jay-Z been in this position in
Right.
the 90s, right?
I mean, Jay-Z
Never.
wasn't he like executive president of
Rockefeller?
was it not Rockefeller? It was because he took Russell Simmons' spot. What's the label? Def Jam, right? Wasn't he
you're
president
right.
of Def Jam for a while? And I think he stepped down.
I think you're right.
I think he
forgot
was.
about that.
I did too because he
Damn.
wasn't there that long.
Yeah.
I think he stepped down after a while.
Man, whatever happened to Ruckus Records? All right, never
No.
mind. This is-
Ruckus used to have all the like underground and like
Yeah, that's still
I mean all the Pharoah Monches.
sound bomb.
I mean all the sound bombing albums like all the Cocoa Brothers like all the like all the underground dudes used to go through Rockets, man.
Yeah.
And I don't know where
That's
that
all right. This is obscure though.
it is obscure, but I don't know where that style of music went. Like where'd that label
It's
go?
conscious, man. That was a conscious rap, man. It wasn't all conscious, but it was like just straight beats and rhymes.
Right.
And
That
I
sound
guess
bombing.
that
joint
didn't
was a
get the
joint, though.
money. That didn't get the attention that.
What was your favorite sound bombing? 1 or 2? I think I like 1 better. But 2 is tight.
2 is tight as
Yeah,
shit,
2 is
though.
tight too. Yeah, I think I still have those joints somewhere.
Oh shit.
I gotta go look
That's
at
a
my
hard
CDs.
question, D.
Yeah, it was.
All
I
right.
can't even remember. All right.
All
Well,
right.
congratulations to Kendrick, and
Yeah,
he
man.
deserved it. We'll
Dope.
see if more hip hop artists get this award in the future.
It ain't gonna be. We ain't gonna see this shit for another 10 years.
Right.
Like they got enough attention. They did it just enough for people to look next year, see if who won,
Mm-hmm.
and the year after that, people gonna look, and maybe in 2 or 3 years they'll put another rapper. But okay, cool.
No, okay, word. They're on that
All
side.
right. So maybe they actually did, but they ain't gonna do it next year. Next year's gonna be like Joachim Bach or some shit.
Said, oh, they're on our side. This man
I
say
don't know.
Johan.
Joachim Bachenheimen.
No, I hope this is going to continue, knowing that minorities right now are putting a lot of pressure on the white population. So hopefully that's going to continue.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, they're definitely putting a lot of pressure on.
Keep the pressure up. Speaking of the white community,
Right.
so like, as we know, white liberals have been a double-edged sword for the progress of any progressive or liberal cause, right? They've been a double-edged sword. The white liberal has been the people who often bring attention to certain issues of social benefit, and also they've been the people who get pointed at and say, this is why we don't like liberals, because these motherfuckers is crazy as shit. So, yeah, it's definitely an interesting dynamic. And no, I'm talking about Claudine's interactions with with some of her white liberal friends, associates.
Oh,
It is weird, man.
Jesus.
I hear you have some commentary about some of the experiences.
I don't even know where to start. Like, I work with white liberals, and God knows I love my white liberals because
We're not going to mention the place, but it's in the
I
academic
love
arena.
my white liberals
Me too.
because we have to love them, right? Yeah. But then once in a while, you rather have a white racist than a white liberals in front of your face, because with the racist, you know what he thinks, you know where you stand. And you know that you need to get out of his face. White liberals, a lot of time, they want to speak on your behalf like you can't speak for yourself.
Like they're defending you.
Yeah.
Right.
They like to
That's it.
They like to empower you like you're not powerful enough to actually make your own decisions and stand your own ground. And I think that's where my problem is right now with a lot of white liberal is that they feel like they are in a position to understand our struggle as Black people, to understand us, and to understand how we interact with everybody in the system, right? with that say, for example, one of my friends who's a white liberal, Black Lives Matters, wear the bracelet, the T-shirt. He's black. He thinks he's black, but
Somebody
he's white.
we like.
Yeah, one of the person we actually really
those
like
guys.
and would like invite for happy hours.
Yeah, you know?
He went to get a coffee and he put his cup on someone's table and that person gave him a nasty look. He came to me as a black lady and he was like, I totally understand what you feel. I totally understand because this happened to me. I understand your struggle. In my head, I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
Hell no.
Like, wait a second. Are you actually killing me right now? As a white man, you put a cup on someone's table and the person was like, why are you doing it? Because you had that experience, you actually understand the black experience in America. No, you understand the black women experience in America. Is that what you're trying to say? And he was
Why
like,
did this said person give him a nasty look though? Like he not use a coaster or something? I know this is kind of irrelevant to the
because
point of the story.
you are in a coffee, you're in
I'd
a
be like,
coffee
fuck
shop. You're in a coffee shop. You have your computer. You have your things. And then someone comes and put a cup next to your computer.
Right, okay.
You're like, why? Like, why are you doing it?
Like,
And
what the hell?
yeah, like that nasty look made him understand what black American
that's
feel.
a hell of a
You kind
conclusion
of
to
blame
jump to.
them though because the cultural, like the racial impact, the racism, the impact that racism has had on this country, right, is built into the psyches of not only black people but white people as well. And there has to be, I think we talked about this before, there has to be some kind of feeling of remorse or regret, something going on in a lot of these people
Or
to make them
innate
feel
superiority.
guilt. Is it innate superiority? Maybe they just recognize that there is a white privilege in this country, and maybe they are trying to find some way to feel that they are endearing themselves to you, or that they, you know,
Understand.
maybe
No, I do.
I'm trying to say that maybe they mean well, but they just don't know how to express it.
I agree with
because
you.
they know that what the things that have happened were wrong. They know that these atrocities and everything happened. So there has to be some kind of feeling of embarrassment or, you know,
And that's why we
remorse,
love them.
regrets.
Because that's the thing. That's why we love the white liberal.
So can you
because
blame the
that
white
is
liberal?
true. No, hold on.
Would you consider
No,
Bernie
we can't
Sanders a
jump
white
to-
liberal?
We can't jump to that conclusion, right? Let's explain this thing. So, yes, we love them because they are the people who are open enough to understand that, yes, what happened in the past was wrong. And they want to rectify those errors. And they want to do what they can to make society better for everybody. That's why we love them. Because their heads are in the right place.
They are the type of people who understand that asking the question that push people to look at slavery as both positive and negative is wrong. Like, for example, yesterday we had an article where in Texas a school was asking the student to list positive and negative aspect of slavery. Yeah, that happened this week in Texas.
They grew a lot of cotton. You know, the cotton industry boomed. I guess that's a positive aspect of it.
White liberals understand that question is wrong. So we love them because they are aware of how fucked up the situation has been for
How can you
centuries.
even seriously ask that question? Where'd y'all see that article? Was that an
Texas.
article or something?
Yeah, it was in
Actually, I heard
Texas.
sometime.
It was in
What?
Texas. And things like that have been happening
Right.
all over the US. But like white liberals
Sold a
are
lot of
aware that
things.
that is wrong. And they're like, we're gonna march, we're gonna do all those things to actually help the society change.
But we have
that
to-
doesn't mean that because they understand, they actually understand our struggle.
No, I wouldn't say
Like
they do.
for example, one of my friends, she's the sweetest and loveliest lady. But the problem is, for her, everything is about black and white, right? Every time something happens, she's like, oh, it's because Claudine is black, right? And I'm like, the conversation was not about race. Like, why you bring things like that? And she's like, because everything's about race. Because I'm a white liberal and I understand what you're going through. So I'm going to save you from having conversation with other people, and I'm going to talk on your behalf. And then that person goes to another friend of mine who's lightest skin, still black, and goes to her and actually asks her how she can talk to me and ask her to help her talk to me in a way that's going to be acceptable.
Claudine, do you throw these people a lot of dirty looks when they ask you questions?
All
Is
the
that why you need a
time.
medium person in
the
between? That's probably
time.
why.
No.
There you go. Like,
Very expressive.
No, my face is really expressive. Like, it is. If you ask me a
Right,
dumb
then-
question, I'm going to look at you and I'm like,
what the...
you'll see it before I say anything. But
the head nods down, the eyebrow goes up. Like,
Pull her glasses down. You
but then
serious?
I'm like,
what?
I'm like that. If you want to be an ally to the black people, if you want to be an ally to me, why are you going to a second person and ask them how to talk to me?
Maybe they're just not feeling
Then you're not an
comfortable
ally.
like coming to you.
Then you're not an ally.
But
tricky.
What I'll
It's
say
not
about
saying you're not an ally.
No, you're
I would
not an
say
ally
that
to me.
it's so there is a limit, right? So we love the idea that the white liberal is on the right side of the issue, right? But when they try to insert themselves into the black experience, right? Like we like them as, what's the word I'm looking for? As allies, but they're not black.
They're
right?
not
So
peers in the
there's a
sense that they
limit
haven't
to
went through the
what
same
they can
experience.
understand about the black experience. And to say, for instance, the
It's still
situation with
navigating.
with the coffee thing, and he came to her, was like, I understand what it's like to be a black woman. Probably not in those words. I hope not quote,
Like,
but
don't think because you drink black coffee, you know what it is to be
you know what
black.
I'm saying, like, you know what I'm saying, but like,
Using that little, all right, what?
like you can't just necessarily jump to that conclusion because you got a bad look. Like that's not what the black female experience is. That's not what the black experience is. A bad look.
I don't know,
It's a couple degrees more than that, I'd argue.
I think so. All right, so I'll say that these white liberals. Now, I'm not trying to put myself in your place at work and say how you should feel, but okay, like if we're going to dismiss these people, then we have to dismiss the white people that were abolitionists against slavery. You know, we have to dismiss the white liberals who marched with the black people during civil rights and stuff like that. I mean, there is a fine line there, and it's not dismissive, but it's like we have to appreciate the fact they can understand, you know, or they're trying to understand what we're going through, and they're seeing that this thing that is happening is wrong. But I do feel you though. Don't try to put yourself on my level and try to act like you know what I've been through.
We're saying we appreciate everything they're doing. We appreciate the fact that they actually aware and march and help and things like that.
And we are their allies as they are ours.
Yeah, but there was a limit where if for example you go to the women's march, and as a minority woman, you have way more challenges than a white woman, right? But you go to the march, marching for yourself and marching for all the women, and you have all the white women looking at you and thanking you for being there. And you're like, why is that? That happened to us when we went to the march. They were like, thanks for being here and thanks for bringing your husband or your boyfriend or whatever. And I was like, why? Why are you thanking me? I'm a woman. Why people should be
thank
here?
you for being here.
Yeah, why white people should be here, not black people? Like that's where there was a limit when it comes to, okay, they understand everything, but that doesn't mean that they actually understand the struggle we are going through. They can see it. They can march for us. They can speak, hopefully, on our behalf when we cannot speak for ourselves.
Right.
But they should understand that at one point they have to shut up and listen. And if you can't shut up and listen, then at that time, your whole bubble of white liberalism is slowly crumbling down and becoming more conservative than you think you are.
I feel you. But I want to break this down into, is this a woman experience? Juice, have you ever felt this way at work? Because I'm used to my, not necessarily racism, but I'll say I don't see a lot of white liberalism, like as far as, you know, I'm on your side. Maybe that has to do with I don't work as close to the city.
Well, she works.
But also, it depends where you work. Like
I work in an office, right? So we don't talk about politics. That's bad policy,
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like you don't want to talk about politics in the office because that's drums right there. And if it does come up, for the most part, like the women I work with are generally open-minded, right? Like some I'm pretty sure voted for Trump, but others I'm pretty sure didn't.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why we don't bring the shit up. Right? So that's my experience. Like I haven't really had to deal with these kind of discussions she had. She was working,
I both work in a high ed with PhDs and stuff like that, and I also work with
so
a
this
lot
is like
of people.
normal water cooler talk for you guys.
And I also work with people in DC,
what they
and
do.
the field I'm in, like the type of work I'm in, is the type of work you actually get into a really heated conversation, And you have to help them calm down and actually hopefully not kill each other and not kill you in the process. So that's the type of work I do. My entire work is actually helping people calm down, right? But then when you get into a room where everybody's already crazy and then everybody's like, oh, I'm a white liberal, but you're only the only black person / the only African person in the room. And you're like...
Oh, they love that.
No, plus you do got that heavy accent too. Yeah,
And I have an accent, and I have an accent, and the worst is sometimes the way I speak, you can hear the French accent, and I want to use some French words so everybody knows that I'm not from here, and everybody knows that, as of course, Africa is a third world country, not a continent. And the worst is I'm from a country that went through a genocide, and in my field, that's like the talking black person.
Yeah.
Like, I can speak on behalf of everybody. So when you get into a room and everybody's like, oh, I'm white liberal, I'm here, I believe in your cause, but let me speak on your behalf because, of course, you have a PhD. I have a PhD, but I have a person who doesn't have a PhD speaking on my behalf because he's or she's a white liberal and I can speak for myself.
It's complicated.
Yeah, I guess it does. It
Welcome
sounds
to
complicated because
welcome
I
to
feel
DC.
I feel like, why don't you just say it? Why don't you just say that to them? Like what you're saying to me, say it to them. And I feel like you have.
They're
Yeah.
aware.
I get offended sometimes. Sometimes people get offended. So here's the other thing. It's about
People get offended by opinions, bro.
right.
Like you cannot have your own opinion anymore. Like if you just don't agree with the popular consensus, then you're just a bad guy.
But it's a degree of fragility, right? Like sometimes people, and that's another tricky part because sometimes it comes down to how you present this. Because you don't want it to make them think that you don't appreciate their position, right? Like you have to understand, like,
And I
these
feel like
people
Claudine
can
doesn't
be
help
one
out
way.
with them looks. I feel like she be throwing a lot of looks. And they be like,
But it's not even the looks. Like, for example, yesterday I was going over an article I'm trying to get published in a peer review article, journal, let's just say. And I wrote the article, and the person just straight attacked me personally. They're like, why are you having those assumptions? Why are you talking like that? What type of argument are you saying? And like, he was just attacking me as a person without reading the article. You can ask him. The person didn't read a sentence of the entire article, just attacked me.
Everything he was addressing was in the article.
Yeah, everything he was addressing
asking
was in the article itself, but he didn't read it. He just looked at the name, looked at the fact, looked at the title, and was like, I don't like this person. This person doesn't know what they are talking about.
is this person a peer or is this person in a position over you?
He's a PhD holder in a position over me, and I'm still a black young lady.
Does it have any influence or bearing on whether your article?
Yeah. If it does
His
not
opinion does?
if it does not
Oh.
prove it, the article is not getting published.
Okay, I see.
So when it comes to academia /
So was
white
was he
liberal,
being tough on you to try to do better? I'm just playing devil's advocate here. Like, was he trying to pull something out of you?
if it's
Did he want you to improve an article? Or he
if
just wanted to
it's-
scrap it totally.
if it's a critical, if it's an actual constructive criticism about the article,
Right.
I understand, right? But if it's like, why are you saying that? What type of role do you have? Why are you doing this type of research? Whatever research you're doing is
It's a character attack.
It's how you call that? It's
Homonym?
now I have a French word in my head. You see, no, it's like destructive. Like you're actually helping them get more conflict and things like that. But you're like, where did you see those things? First of all, you saw the last name, which means you know where I'm from because I have a typical African last name. So you're not trying to destroy the argument because you actually haven't read the article. You're trying to destroy the character and the credibility of the person.
right.
Right.
Yeah.
And that is not just in the article itself. When you get into the stage of academia, when you get into that whole, okay, I'm about to get a PhD or I'm about to be a doctor, the first thing that influences is your color, your skin, the skin of your color. If you're black, you have more challenges than other people.
Right.
Then if you're woman, black woman, like you can ask most of my coworkers right now that I finished my PhD in 3 years, they don't talk to me. They don't invite me to anything. Because most of them are like, how did she do it? She probably had help. There's no way a black young lady did it by herself.
Maybe they feel intimidated by you.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Right.
And I made sure they were.
And maybe that comes through and reflects itself at work. So are any of these conversations that you guys ever have productive? Like, as far as opinions, like, is there any possibility that you can actually befriend some of these people in there?
Oh, we consider ourselves friends.
Mm-hmm.
We do. Friends. We do.
Are they friends, Juice?
They're friends.
Like the way. Okay, all right. Like co-workers or friends?
Co-worker.
Because
friends.
it seems like you guys have to be close at work, and divisions at work. When your work is based upon other people, any kind of division can just be.
My work is based on myself because I'm teaching my own classes, so I don't have to interact with anybody anymore. But when I had to interact with them, I had the token white person. I have a friend who speaks both to white people and to black people, right? She can translate to everybody. And everybody was coming to her to translate and talk to me. That was 3 years of my actual work when I was interacting with all those white liberals.
Yeah, sounds complicated.
I'm gonna get fired.
It sounds complicated.
No one listens to
this. It's beautiful.
In case any of your coworkers are going to listen to this in the future, she has been drinking. Okay, so if she said anything off the wall or crazy, just blame the alcohol. Okay.
But it has to be addressed, though.
Like, that's DC. It's not even just me. I know so many other people went through the same thing. It's very politically driven. It's DC.
Mm-hmm. But it's important that stuff like this is addressed, right? Like the fact that, like, you have to be able to draw that line between when it's too much, when you're doing too much, and when you're doing helpful things, right? Like sometimes when they try to represent like the black experience, they're saying it wrong. Mm-hmm. They're getting it wrong. And they're putting out a narrative that's not true.
They don't actually talk to. They don't go to the black person asking them what type of experience.
Their assumption of the black experience is based off of a lot of media.
But can you blame them?
Interactions with black people.
Can you blame them for their intentions, though? I mean, are their intentions pure?
We haven't.
Do you feel like any of their
at
intentions
this point we
pure?
haven't.
We're not blaming
Nobody's
them
ever blamed for that. Like we pointed out before, like it's definitely appreciated that they're on the right side of the political issue because the fact of the matter is. All it takes is a perspective switch for them to be alt-right, and they want to start promoting the Book of Swans and putting all black or all minorities on a ship.
And we need them. Like, we need them no matter what.
And I feel you, like you just said, with them trying to equate themselves to the black experience, things for you in achievement of your PhD was harder to get than a lot of your white counterparts, Which me as a black man in America, especially, I mean, things are harder to do. I mean, you get profiled and classified all the time. And I guess that circles back around to them trying to understand the black experience or trying to say that they understand it or that they understand what you have went through your entire life because of one certain incident that might have happened, like a coffee cup or this other thing, So like you said, maybe they are saying some of this stuff wrong, but never want to question their intentions, I think they know. I think people are aware of the racial climate in this country. And in a place like Washington, D.C.
Hitler had good intention. He committed the Holocaust.
Depends on who.
He had good.
Depends on who you're talking to.
No, he had good intention. He wanted to actually
maybe for him and his political party, but if you talk to people outside of that, they'd be like,
wanted to rebuild Germany after World War II or after World War One. He wanted to rebuild the economy in Germany. He went too far, but that's what I'm trying to say is. Most people, when they are trying to do something, they have good intention.
Yeah,
and they don't necessarily.
That's different with Hitler because
Hitler was a populist.
I've heard that Hitler, a lot of American companies actually built a lot of the Nazi war machine, like a lot of.
Why do you think a lot of the populists blame minorities right now? Like the people who want to change the way our country runs are populists, but they voted for Trump. So it's a very similar situation. They're blaming the wrong target. They have the same idea. They want to improve their life and they want to improve their country. What is the pathway used to do that? And people will choose whatever is presented to them. Hitler was a negative choice. Trump was a negative choice to do these things. Very similar, but they were dope. But they were both. Hey, I'm saying they were both have the intention of improving their country and living better lives. Okay, that's the problem.
Let's take a better example. Jefferson. He had amazing intention, right? Washington. They all had good intention to actually rebuild the country to create an economy. Like
I think the early fathers.
Yeah, they all had intention to build a country, have a democratic. They have a democratic society. They had Hamilton with the central bank and things like that. They all had slaves. They all were raping all their slaves.
Yep.
But they had good intention. They were all. We could all consider them as liberal.
The road to hell is paved
They
with
were
good
We're not
all
going to
intentions.
compare any of your
liberal.
co-workers
No, I'm not comparing
to Thomason and Hamilton, or Thomas Jefferson and Hamilton.
I'm
and
not
stuff like that.
comparing them. What I'm saying is
That's kind of an extreme
most
example.
action are actually taken by people with good intention.
The road to hell is
But
paved with good intentions.
what's
That's a
needed
truth.
is people to actually put them in places sometimes saying, hey, you have a good intention. Thank you. But get your eyes out of your own thing and look a little bit behind you and around you what's happening. And then understand that you're not the only person here in this room. You have other people that actually also need you to shut up sometimes.
I feel you. I feel like you also throw a lot of dirty looks at these people too, man.
I
They don't
do.
know. They don't
They can't.
know the black intention when you're throwing dirty looks at them all the time.
I
They
see.
look like,
But
this
that's
black-
part of the black.
They be like,
that's part of the black experience, though.
They be like,
If
this
you-
black lady going
if
to
you
whip my
don't-
ass if I keep
as
talking.
a black person,
Sometimes
if
you
you don't
just
give
gotta
a
look.
nasty look to someone, you're not black enough.
Sometimes you just gotta look
have
because if you
to
say
do
something,
it.
you might get fired.
Sometimes
You just
you
gotta
have
look
to
at
do
it.
it.
Well,
That shut the fuck up look.
you know, I don't know. I don't know how to argue this point anymore because
So
I feel like, you know, you can't blame them too much for their intentions. Okay, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, but they're trying to understand. And
of course, and
you
we
can't
love
hold
them
that
for
against
that.
them.
We're
You know?
not saying that we don't like them. We're not saying
They do
that
go
we
about it
hate
in the
them.
wrong way, and the black experience is very unique in the sense that we've lived it our whole lives.
'Cause, like,
So
Like the argument I'm making when it comes to white liberal and black people, I can make exactly the same argument when it comes to African and African American. Like the exact argument can be made. What I'm trying to say is sometimes people who have the power over another group have to shut the head up and actually listen to that other group before making statements and before doing things. Because at the end of the day, what they're doing, if they don't consult the other people they're supposed to be representing or at least supposed to be helping, whatever they're doing will be counterproductive and it's going to backfire on everybody.
true that.
Speaking of good intentions,
I hope everything works out. I hope everything works out. Sounds complicated. Sounds very political.
I'm
and
graduating, so it's all good.
Nice, man. Congratulations, man.
Thank you.
yeah.
So, is that going to be before or after the wedding?
Graduation? Before. It's in 3 weeks.
Ooh, nice. Nice. Well, congratulations, man. Happy for you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So,
Now, speaking of good intentions, I heard Alex Jones has some good intentions about the whole
this guy,
Sandy Hook.
Alex Jones.
I'm sure he